Drifter. Follow the light.
Yeah.
Why don't we follow the light when we're lost in the darkness? Came in with a little talk about Naughty Dog. I mean, come on, that was pretty good.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
That was a pretty good one. So this is pulling from Logan Plant at IGN. Neil Druckmann, who you might know as the co-creator and current showrunner, co-showrunner on The Last of Us on HBO, is interested in more Elden Ring and Inside-esque storytelling for the future of Naughty Dog. So, like I said, pulling from Logan Plant at IGN, Uncharted and The Last of Us are known for their cinematic storytelling, but Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann is becoming increasingly fascinated with more subtle world building. Speaking to the Washington Post, Druckmann said he's inspired by From Software's minimalist storytelling in last year's Elden Ring. Quote, I'm more recently intrigued by stuff like Elden Ring and Inside that doesn't rely as much on traditional narrative to tell its story, Druckmann said. Some of the best storytelling in The Last of Us is in the cinematics, but a lot of it is in the gameplay and moving around the space and understanding the history of a space by looking at it and examining it. To me, right now, that's some of the best joy I get out of games that trust their audience to figure things out. Games that don't hold your hand, that's the stuff I'm really intrigued by going forward, end quote. From Software and Naughty Dog's game design philosophies are polar opposites in a number of ways, but both studios have had huge success. Given Naughty Dog's knack for curated cinematic experiences, it's interesting to hear that Druckmann is drawn to Elden Ring, which cuts the player loose and doesn't seem to care what story beats the player picks on. Quote, that doesn't mean we will never have dialogue or cutscenes. I think that there are tools in your toolbox, and I think that that's a way to push that stuff forward, at least for the kind of games that we make at Naughty Dog. I'm really intrigued again, never resting on our laurels and trying something a little bit new, a little bit different that not everybody's going to like, but that's okay. And the stuff we're working on now, I can tell you the teams are very excited by the different projects we have at Naughty Dog, end quote. So Cayman, I thought this was interesting because we've been playing Naughty Dog games for over a decade, and they're always very, very narratively heavy. A lot of cutscenes, a lot of dialogue, a lot of storytelling in the environments too. But like it is very much they are telling a story and they're telling it to us by having actors do a lot of voice acting and so on and so forth. What is the like as someone who played Elden Ring and platinumed Elden Ring? Are you interested in what this might look like from Naughty Dog, or are your alarms going off?
No, I think it's interesting. Honestly, that was one of the things that I kind of enjoyed about Elden Ring. It was just it's one of those things where like it definitely didn't hit for me at first, but just being given like the keys of the kingdom and just being like, go fuck off.
Sure.
Kind of feels fun. Like you don't really ever get that in a video game where a game literally just tells you to like, we don't care where you go, just go. And then you just have to do that. It's kind of an interesting concept. My question is like, with Naughty Dog being so like realistic, right? Like everything they do is so grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And even though their games are very big action set pieces or, you know, clickers. So maybe not as grounded, but like that kind of style that they have, it makes me interested to see like how could you incorporate a storytelling method in which you don't really tell the story, you just let your person experience what they experience, and that's how they go about their day.
Sure.
That's what interests me the most. I don't think I would say alarm bells, not in the slightest. I trust Naughty Dog implicitly. I have no reason not to. So like that's
so
I
funny
think
that you said that. That was literally thinking that exact phrase.
So like that's another thing as well, where it's like if you were to tell me like you were going to give me a different developer, let's say like Striking Distance, who make Callisto Protocol, and they were to have said this, I would be like, yeah, I probably don't do that, or maybe go do that because you didn't succeed the first time on something else that you apparently were very good at.
Yeah. So John asks, does he mean Elden Ring gameplay or artistic styling? Actually, I think he means neither. I think he means how within Elden Ring, the narrative was kind of a lot of the times it was presented in things like the setting and how they kind of via art. So I guess I kind of see what you mean by that, John. That they're not telling their story in cutscenes; they're telling it in other ways in Elden Ring. I think is more so what he means. But good question.
Yeah, and I do think like it'd be really cool to see let's say if they were to take like The Last of Us and they were to say like here's an Elden Ring version of The Last of Us. And you're essentially just dumped outside of a QZ zone and you're like, "All right, well the goal here is to try to make it to Utah." And then that's it.
That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be fucking dope. I'd
Yeah.
fuck with that. Like
Because
that's
like
a cool concept.
something that we've talked about, and I want to tread lightly because with the show happening, but like some of our favorite stuff in The Last of Us that we've talked about in the history of this podcast is the environmental storytelling and going around environments and reading, spray paint on the walls and notes that people left and where bodies are, like decayed bodies. Like that way of telling a story by stumbling upon it and putting the pieces together yourself is something that Naughty Dog has already kind of played with. So I would love to see what that means at a grand scale for them, because they're so good at telling a story that I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of the best pieces of environmental storytelling that wasn't in a video game is probably Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later when Cillian Murphy makes it into the church. He's going to go try to find his parents. He's woken up from the hospital, makes it into a church. He sees spray painted on the wall, just in huge letters, "God has abandoned us."
Sure.
And it's like that moment where like, as the viewer, you're like, obviously shit is not okay. What is going on? We don't really know what's happening. You see that, and then you immediately like, it's just like that moment where it's like, this works really well. I think Naughty Dog, there's a lot of developers I think who do that really well while also telling a really good story. So I am curious, like if we had fewer cutscenes and we had, fewer things, but like this was more of a focus for them is to have moments like that. I think that's dope.
I think that's dope.
I want to see him do it.
I'm in.
Yeah.